on the date of Kobe Bryant scoring 81 points, destroying Jalen Rose, Joel Embiid, Karl Towns, two big men in today's current environment of the NBA, where big men are more skilled than ever, and we have better players than ever before. Put on historic performances. Joel Embiid with 70, Karl Towns with 62. And I gotta say, for both of these individuals, and I don't want to come off as a cynic here, and I know we have a lot of NBA fans that have recently joined Brand's world. You may not be as familiar with my NBA takes, but in my opinion, for both of these superstars, and they were historic performances, I don't really care about either one of them. It's the same thing I said about Donovan Mitchell last year when he put up 75 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. What happened to Donovan Mitchell in the first round? I thought he was a top 10 player in the NBA coming into that playoff series against the Knicks. Completely flamed out, completely disappointed fans, not only in Cleveland, but NBA fans worldwide. Remember when Devin Booker put up, 80 something in the bubble? I don't even remember the amount of points he put up. You know why? I don't care. It was in the bubble, it was a meaningless game. There have been some historic performances in the NBA. Luka Doncic has put up some. Giannis Antetokounmpo has put up some this year. It has never been easier to score in the NBA, especially in the regular season, right? Fouls are being called a lot more. It's a lot less physical. Teams are not playing a lot of defense. They're getting a lot of wide open threes. Regular season basketball is different than postseason basketball. Postseason basketball, they swallow the whistle. It's not as bad as hand checking in the 90s. Now, if you have that one family member, like a couple that I do, that always says, I wonder if these guys could have played in the 90s, or I wonder what the 90s guys would do to these guys today. And you're like, dude, it's a completely different game. Who cares? Stop living in the past. Okay, I get you don't like today's NBA. I understand that you are not, excuse me, as quick to change as maybe some other people are. However, it's just the way of the land. And I have said over the last 3, 4 years in the NBA, really ever since Golden State finished their dynasty with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt, and obviously Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship. Really, from that moment on, and after the bubble, LeBron and AD obviously came in and they destroyed the bubble. But starting with the year that Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns went to the NBA Finals and they took on Giannis and the Bucks, since then, it hasn't really always been about, you know, being the most talented team. Really, it's about more bench depth. And it's about, do you have one superstar? Do you have one star? Do you have a lot of good quality role players? It's not necessarily about the big three anymore. The NBA has leaned a lot to duos. And we've seen teams like last year, the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray. In years past, maybe they wouldn't be the NBA champions, but they got some injury luck. They dominated throughout the regular season. Nikola Jokic was the best player in the postseason. Look no further than the Miami Heat. They struggled all season long, but they got hot in the postseason because Max Strus came to life and Caleb Martin came to life and Kyle Lowry came to life, who they just traded to Charlotte. And Jimmy Butler had an historic postseason. Joel Embiid has never made it to the conference finals, and I love Joel Embiid. At this point last year, I was making the case Joel Embiid is a better overall player than Nikola Jokic. The funny thing is, as I've always said, I thought 2 years ago when Jokic won his back-to-back MVP, I thought Joel Embiid was the best player that season. Last year, when Embiid won the MVP, I thought Jokic had a better season than Embiid. But the NBA likes to control this narrative when it comes to MVP. They gave it to James Harden because they didn't want to give it to LeBron James, even though LeBron has arguably been the MVP of the NBA, from 2003 to 2020. They gave it to Russell Westbrook because of the triple doubles, even though the Thunder were a 60 and Damian Lillard and that crew, embarrassed the Thunder in that playoff series when Damian Lillard called game on the then MVP. And so there's a lot of things in the NBA I don't like. It's why I don't talk a lot of regular season basketball because the floor is so spread out now. It's easier to score. There's a lot more ticky-tack fouls, and what we've seen in the NBA now, as we have more talent than ever. I mean, international talent is now more so, I would argue, than American talent. The NBA is leaning more on the G League and international stars. We're seeing, Victor Wembanyama come in, and even though the Spurs have struggled this season, Wembanyama has been one of the most fun players to watch in the NBA, and I think him, Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, all four international players, I think will sort of, be the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird type. I don't think we're gonna have a one dominating player. I don't think we're gonna have Michael Jordan. I don't think we're gonna have LeBron. I think we're gonna have a Magic, Larry Bird type scenario here in the next 10 years. And my prediction will be Victor Wembanyama, and then I think Giannis, Nikola, and Joel will almost rotate. We'll see if Luka Doncic decides to play defense and Dallas and Kyrie and see if they can get up there at this point. I think LeBron's still a top five player in the league. I think Steph Curry is still a top five player in the league, as you've heard me say multiple times. So the talent out there right now is endless. And because of that, I think scoring 60 and even 70 and 80 would be a hell of an accomplishment. But Kobe did it back in the day when the game was a lot more physical. Now, the new 25 is like the new 35, and the new 50 is like the new 60. Jason Tatum is a guy a lot of people love. He's done that multiple times this year. I'm not the biggest fan of Jason Tatum. And I think when it comes down to it, a lot of these guys in the NBA, the regular season is 82 games. It's long. There's more back-to-backs than ever. So it's really a young man's game in the regular season. Postseason, it's a 7-game series. Coaches get time to adjust. They learn your weaknesses. And the veterans that have been there and done that have gone through the old postseason gauntlet, per se, have thrived. I mean, the Lakers were a 7th seed, last year. They redid their whole team at the trade deadline, made the Western Conference Finals, and I'm sorry, they were in every game against the Denver Nuggets last year. Yes, they got swept, but they were in every single game. Karl Towns and Joel Embiid, two great, all-time regular season performances. But Karl Towns has never been out of the first round. Joel Embiid has never been out of the second round. If both of these guys flame out, and both of these guys are, along with Anthony Edwards, obviously, for Minnesota and Tyrese Maxey for Philadelphia. But these guys are leading their teams. I believe the Sixers right now are third in the East. I think Minnesota is the number one seed in the Western Conference. Unlike Denver last year, sort of shocking the league. And I have said for years, as much as we don't trust a team like Denver that won the championship last year, or a team like Minnesota, or Oklahoma City, or even, in Orlando this year, historically in the NBA, if you don't get a top three seed, you're not a championship team. So we'll see if these guys can put it together this year. We'll see if they can mature on that big stage. Again, Devin Booker has put up historic numbers. Donovan Mitchell has put up historic numbers. Joel Embiid has had historic games. Jason Tatum has had historic games. Now Cat has historic games. Luka Doncic. There's a lot of players in this league that have either, made one conference finals and then flamed out, or have never made a conference finals that have historic regular season performances. I don't care what you do in the regular season. Scoring 70, great, great accomplishment. It's hard to do for one night. But I would rather have you have 35, 8, and 5 and put on a postseason game of a lifetime where you take over the game down the stretch. You may only have 20 points with 4 minutes to go, but you score the last 10 in a game six, your team's up 3-2. You put the team away, although like LeBron putting up 40 something against Miami, game six, 2012 against Boston, which everybody says was LeBron's best game of his career. LeBron scored 51 against Golden State, game one of the 2018 finals. Not a lot of people remember it. You know why? They remember J.R. Smith for getting the score. So winning and losing to me is a lot different. Again, I'd rather have you have 30-ish, 8-4, and win the game in a playoff series than have you go 60 and whatever on one random regular season night in January and completely flame out in the postseason. So I know it's hard. Congratulations to both guys for doing a great job last night. But really, what we will remember about these performances will come down to how their teams perform in the postseason. And both these guys are leaders on those teams. So if they do not perform, like who knows, maybe they will, but maybe they won't. We'll get more clarity on the NBA as we get to March and April, but the pressure will be on JoJo and Cat. We've never had more skilled bigs. I believe Karl Anthony Towns was the number one pick. Joel Embiid was the number three pick. Missed the first two seasons of his career, has been injured a lot. He's a special player. Karl Anthony Towns on certain nights can be a special player, but are you that guy? Are you a dog? We'll find out come April and May.
Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.